Good afternoon, everyone. Wow, good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? So, this is a panel session, just as we have been told, and the theme of this session is research funding, which I think a lot of us are interested in, right? So research funding, sourcing grants, preparing budgets, and preparing proposals. So that's what this session is about. So, of course, we'll be taking questions from the audience and we'll be asking Dr. Olofin, which we are very grateful to have him here, those questions. So as we'll be starting this panel session, if you have questions surrounding the theme, please start preparing them. And when it's time, we'll reach out to you to ask your questions. So Dr. Olofin, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Welcome. It's a real privilege to have you join us again at the College of Medicine, University of Ibadan. Of course, not as a student this time, but as an accomplished researcher and teacher.
I'm an upcoming researcher.
Okay. So I understand that you really, you take so much pride in your alma mater here. So I want to start on just a personal note. How does it feel to be here today? How are you feeling right now?
I'm nostalgic, coming back to my alma mater. Yes. And I feel happy. And I'm really impressed at what you guys are doing. When I was at your level, we didn't do half of what you are doing now. And thanks to the likes of Professor Rufus Akemi, Emeritus Professor Oguniyi for the mentoring. I see, and Dr. Mankojola, I see a lot of your publications, your exploits on LinkedIn, and I'm really impressed.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the compliments. Of course, we are following in your footsteps and footsteps of other elders that have gone on before. So we'll be going straight to the business. Today's discussion is about research funding. So I want to start by asking, why has research funding become such a critical matter that we have to discuss in research proposals, especially in low and middle income countries like Nigeria? Especially now, why has it become like an integral and a critical issue worthy of discussion on a scale like this?
Well, it's worthy of discussion because ever since the installment or the coming to power of the present president of the United States of America, there has been budget cuts when it comes to research funding. And well, it's because the United States of America is majorly the largest funder of research globally. And the CEO, the present president of America doesn't see the need to fund research, especially in low middle income countries. And that's a wake-up call on us. To me, I quite share his sentiment. Most of the disease burden we have in Africa, we should rise up to the challenge. We have the rich people, our politicians are wealthy, we have industrialists, they should fund research. And a system you don't invest in, you won't repeat. That's my philosophy. So it's worthy of notes to discuss this topic.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for that. In light of that, I would like to ask about research ideas. What makes research ideas fundable? As young researchers, we all have ideas, but we also know that not all ideas attract funding. So in your experience, please, can you share with us what differentiates a fundable idea from another idea that is not fundable? Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much for that question. Yes. What differentiates a fundable research from a non-fundable is when it's innovative. Yes, funders, there are a lot of things they're looking for in your proposal or your concept notes. Is it innovative? Does it solve a problem? Or is it that you're repeating what others have done over and over? And will it translate to policies? Will it, empower people? And gone are the days where you just publish and, they say publish or perish for researchers. You either publish or perish. But nowadays, you need to do innovative research. I remember when I was a house officer, that was when they were doing the Siren project. And some of my colleagues who were in neurology were actively involved in helping to gather data. And if you look at the Siren project, the the manuscript that have been published from it, it has really improved, the way we manage patients with stroke. It has, in fact, one part of it that I really love is, that emphasizes on the need for patients to take more fruits. From the Siren project, it shows that patients who eat vegetables are at lesser risk of developing stroke than patient who, consumes the general food we eat. And apart from that, there are a lot of things that needs to be done. You don't just, when you conceptualize an idea, you also look into literature, whether the study has been done before. Even if it has been done before, what are the gaps you have? I mean, as a researcher, you can't do everything. There's where you stop, others pick up from it and, build on it. So that's what I'll have to say about that.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for explaining that. Of course, at the bedrock of a successful research is innovation. But in the room today, like, there are a lot of students that have so many ideas that we think, or they think, that are actually innovative. So in addition to these ideas, what would you say are like some skills or some specific things that young researchers should possess that would place them on the forefront for getting research grants and other opportunities that are available?
Yes. To be a researcher that attracts grants, you need to be a skillful writer. You need to be a well writer. Unfortunately, in the era of AI, people just go to AI, send in their topic, and it generates whatever you have. And, if you submit that to funders, it's a red flag. They will not fund your research because they know that it's not de novo. I mean, you did generate it yourself. Apart from that, it's not that AI has its role in modern research. Yes, if you attend international conferences, there are roles AI plays. It helps you shorten your time of writing. But you also need to do a very hard work. You need to do a lot of literature search. Yes, using the PubMed and other Google Scholar and the likes to know what has been done and where you want to start from. Then you need to add something to when you're writing a proposal, when you're submitting a consent, you need to talk about what you're adding. What's the importance of this study? Is it that you're just doing it for the fun of it, or you just want to use the right papers, or you're using it to, okay, like we have a lot of health issues in Nigeria. We have sickle cell anemia or sickle cell disease, for instance. We have even hypertension. Even the way we manage hypertension in Nigeria is different from the way they manage in some other parts of the world. And you can take sickle cell, for instance. You can the hydroxyurea, for instance. There's the adherence to it is quite low in Nigeria. You could, first of all, as a medical student, you could go to that shop or the hematology clinic and design a questionnaire just after obtaining the ethical approval. And but first of all, you also need a mentor. Yes, at your stage or at our stage, we need mentors. I also need mentors. Yes, I didn't get to this stage. I had to the help of mentors. So you need to gather. Why patients don't want to use hydroxyurea. It's the information you gather, the data you gather from it. If you publish it, it can help. Now from that, you can now move to other things that are a bit innovative and all that. So before you can get grant, at least the funders must know that you're an active researcher. I mean, you must have been publishing before, and there are different grants. There are those for early early career researchers. There are those for middle career researchers, and those for advanced researchers. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Olofin, for those answers. So I would like to ask members of the audience if we have any questions right now. Does anyone have questions that they would like to ask? Your hand. Okay, I can see one hand. I can see two hands. So please come forward to ask your questions now. Okay, Dr. It's for them to come. You briefly mentioned the place of mentorship in proposal writing and application. So I just want you to just speak some more to that. And as students, where do we draw the line between like the relationship being just like transactional, like I just want this person to help me with my proposal, and not just, and the person perceiving you as, oh, this person just wants something from me. And how do we manage relationships, especially with older people that we are looking to mentor us in research?
Okay, yes. Actually, mentorship, mentor and mentee relationship is a two-way thing. In most cases, the mentee is the one that receives at the receiving end, but also the mentor too can be at the receiving end. There are other things you could do, to assist your mentor. Yes, there are other things you can do apart from, can help them to get. The mentor might be conducting a clinical trial, and you can volunteer that you want to be part of the study, even though you might not be remunerated. But by that, you are getting experience, you are getting expertise. If your mentor is magnanimous enough, she might add your name as one of the authors of that publication. And if it's published in an high impact journal, imagine it's published in Lancet, your name will be all over the place. Yes. And by the time you yourself you're not publishing on you're also maybe publish one or two papers, and you're not applying for a grant. It shows that you have a track record of mentorship, and the funders can, give you the money, knowing that your money will be well accounted for.
Thank you very much, sir. So we'll take questions now. So when you want to ask your question, introduce yourself and ask your question.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Toyi Badiogun once again. So my question is on grants, of course. So far during the conference, we have had several speakers talking about how important it is to translate whatever work you have done beyond the innovation. Are we looking at the usability of whatever you have developed? Now, for the translation, now it is important that we have, for some ideas, we have proper funding for it. For instance, my work, it started when I heard last year, when I heard a speaker, when I was in a research class, talked about what if you had 1 million naira? What particular research work could you do? I started thinking since that time, and I came about this particular topic. So right now, I'm still stuck at this phase 2 of my work, which I'm looking forward to having the, want to compare with the gold standard. And looking at what it could cost, it looks like around that 1 million naira. And we agree also that this is a low and medium income country. And one of those criteria is because we have low, one of the resources is still money. So of course, being a member of that particular country, it means that money is still a problem. So, and we want to scale up this particular innovation so that people can benefit from it. And of course, the outcome is going to be we improving the healthcare system and also the patient themselves. So what are those local grants that one could even apply for? For instance, this work now could benefit UCH, for instance, and if we could have a better funding for it locally within UCH, then that could go in UCH, and other teaching hospitals around can want to think about it, and they want to also implement such a policy, and before we know it, we have it nationally, and from nationally, we have the whole of Africa and so on like that. So what are those local we have, and maybe the regional level, and maybe the African level and so on that we have that one could really apply to and have a proper funding of research work? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for that beautiful question. Okay, I will start by one, you've done a beautiful work, and for you to gain visibility, there are some international conferences you can submit your abstracts to, and if they find your work, good enough, they would invite you to come and present it, either as a poster presentation or an oral presentation at an international conference. And being a student, I'm coming from low and middle income country. You stand a high chance of being given a travel scholarship, depending on how much it will cost you to fly to the location of the conference. And sometimes they also sponsor your accommodation and your feeding, and even the cost of, your ticket and your visa. By that, when you attend such conferences and you present your work, it makes it to gain visibility. You might see a funder or an industrialist who is interested in your work. By that, you network with the individual. And by that, that's how many of our big mentors, that's how their work got visibility. Also, you have the National Research Fund, especially the TED Fund, those usually available for scholars in the government institutions. So I'm sure one of your co-authors is a lecturer in nursing. Yes, if she is a senior lecturer, she's eligible to apply for that. One is coming up very soon, so you can network with her, write it together. But she'll be the one. She'll be the principal investigator because you are still a student. So with that, if your work gets nominated for the grant, I think the grant usually ranges to about 50 million naira. If your work is, if your budget, if you develop a budget that is up to that, they can give you the 50 million naira and you're able to implement your work. And by the time you publish your work, it gains visibility. Hope I've answered the question.
Good evening, sir, and thank you for the presentation. My name is Ishaq Sanusi, and I'm a medical student of this community. So basically, my question is from the aspect of indigenous grants. Like you were saying something earlier that we have politicians that are rich, and we have people that are rich in this country. Like why should I have? Because now Donald Trump now is definitely like is on like cutting down funds for research. So the thing is that how do you think we can be persuasive enough to make those people actually see that okay, yes, these things are meant to be funded, and these things are meant to be funded, like they're actually essential to be funded. So that's my question.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Yes, we researchers, we sit in our hybrid towers, in our big laboratories, doing our own research. And our politicians who have the money, they are in another, empire of their own. I think it's high time we researchers, come to the level of our politicians, make them see reason why they need to invest in research. In developed countries, why they are developed today is because they have invested in research. And that's why they're able to innovate a lot of things. If you go to China, for instance, China happens to be one of the, if not the leading country, in terms of research and innovation and all that. So if we researchers are able to explain to the likes of maybe Dangote or Tedola and the likes why they need to invest in medical research, maybe they would see the need to invest in it. Yes. And also as researchers, we also need to be accountable. When they give us more funds for research, we need to use it judiciously for that research. So by that way, we'll be getting the trust of our funders.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So I'll be asking my question about grant writing and budgeting. When it comes to grant writing and budgeting, I want to ask that what are the common mistakes you see researchers do, and how can we as young researchers avoid such mistakes?
Okay, sometimes when we researchers write for grants, sometimes we have a very highfalutin, idea in our head, and we want to execute everything, using that grant. Usually funders look for something that is achievable. There's what you call SMART objective: specific, measurable, achievable, time bound. Yes, your objectives when you are writing your proposal should be SMART. Yes, you can't answer the whole question in one research. No, you need to start small, and once your funder sees that what you're trying to research is something that is achievable and fundable. Then also when it comes to budgeting, that we have experts like the cream of the College of Medicine. There's one Mr. I've approached him quite a number of times for my budgeting. He's an expert when it comes to budgeting. So when you do your budgeting, you shouldn't quote, very exorbitant prices that your funders will know that you want to cheat them or you're trying to do some shady things. So we have experts regarding that. College of Medicine has an expert regarding that. So once you've done your budget, you just give it to him. He looks at it and he'll be able to advise you on what to do. And with that, there's high chances of you getting the funding. But I think Dr. Mark Ojola too has something to say that's more. Yes, okay.
I'm sorry for interrupting the panel.
Okay.
Just, two things I wanted to mention. The first thing was, that first question about how to secure funding. And, Dr. Olofin correctly mentioned innovation, right? However, just being practical, aligning your grant to the aims and objectives of the funding organization is critical. So you have to sort of, I think one of the skills that one needs to develop is being able to find ways in which whatever your own research idea and trajectory aligns with, different. So you find the parts where your research idea overlaps with what the agency is trying to fund, because that's critical. They have institutional or agency goals and objectives, just like you have individual research goals and objectives. So the sweet spot to secure funding is where those two align, so that the agency sees that, okay, we can see how this person's work aligns with ours and to achieve our desired goals as well. So that's very important. And then another thing is just, you can't stress enough the importance of literature review. Like what has been done in the field, what are the gaps? What new things, new perspectives, or innovative approaches can I bring to those gaps? And then that's where that innovation thing comes. But if you don't know what has been done, what has been published, you stand the risk of, what some of our trainers used to call LICA, or repeating. LICA is little is known about. So you say little is known about. So just understanding that. And then the final point to make is also important. There are experts in the, College Research and Innovation Management Office, CRIM office, okay? And, risk grant administration is like a whole different field on its own. And in foreign countries and other well-established institutions, and even here as well, the scientist deals with the science, and they have individuals who are experts at handling the administrative parts, the budgetary parts, and all that. So making use of the CRIM office is actually excellent advice. If you have any sort of research grants you're writing up, you can always approach anybody there, to help you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makonjola.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makonjola, for doing those. We are very grateful. So I think, did we all hear Dr. Makonjola? So are we going to be visiting the CRIM office if we have issues or just worries about budgeting? So we'll be continuing our question. So I want to ask about the literature review part, just as Dr. Makonjola pointed out. So when you want to carry out the research, you do your literature review, and if you carry out your literature review and you see that this subject is not very well explored, and you actually feel like you want to explore further. But of course, because some work has already been done, and of course, even though you are going to improve, it still does not remove the fact that some work has already been done on that project. So where do you balance out the LICA part, just like Dr. Makonjola said, and also developing the idea to a position where you can actually use it to compete for funds even outside?
Well, if I got you well, yes, it's if it's a work that has been done and you don't want to develop it further, yes, it's something you need to develop your methodology so that it suits the funder. I mean, it's in line with the goal and the objective and the goal of the funders. And with that, if you are competitive enough, you'll be able to get the grants.
Okay, so before we go on, I want to ask if there are any more questions from the audience. Is there anyone that has any other question? Okay, so if there is no other question, I want to just ask one last question before we go on. Our grand patron mentioned, even in his presentation, about grant refusals, how that when you apply for stuff, of course, it's not certain that you would get it. So I want to ask if you can share some experience on maybe some time that you actually applied for a grant and you didn't actually get it, and how that improved your research resilience, and on that note, you can just share some closing and parting words for us.
Okay. I belong to the American. That was when I knew Cream get the grant. Although my rating was quite high, and the reviewers commended my efforts, but that made me to be more critical with the way I write my grants, and to also approach people who have won numerous grants and the secret. But I could remember during the time there was a program, Emeritus Professor Ojembedes, made a lecture, delivered a lecture sometimes ago, some years back. He said that before you get a single grant, you'll have received many no's. So that at least I said I'm not a loner. So, well, I encourage you guys. You're starting on a good platform, and you have good mentors like Professor Rufus Akiemi, Dr. Marco Jola, and Emeritus Professor Guni. Yes, you are really pulling your weight, and I'm really proud of Ibadan medical students, both medicine, dental students, physiotherapy, and nursing students. So, well done. Okay, Professor Akiemi wants to say something.
When you submit a grant, there are 4 phases. The outcome is either yes or no. It's either, the way they write those letters, there were many, we received many highly rated proposals. You know the way they write those letters. So the result is, it's either you rejoice, celebrate, or you resubmit. All right? Either you rejoice or you resubmit. Ensure that, and the truth is, we have all been through this pathway before. Even as I speak to you, I have applications that didn't succeed that are still lying in a folder on my laptop, and I'm thinking of how to repackage or refocus. Just look for another RFA, another funding opportunity announcement, and see how to repackage, update the idea. But please, don't let the idea die. Ideas don't die. That's what I've come to learn. If you don't pursue that idea, you will just see a publication on PubMed. And I wanted to do this work. So ideas don't die. Make sure you don't give up. And there's a home for every idea. There's a funding. It may be a 2000, the Ibadan Brain Bank project. We started it with a 1 million naira grant. It wasn't $1 million. It was only $2,500. But now we have built it, and we're now having more funding. All right. So please, ideas don't die. Don't give up on them. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. So on that note, we would like to say thank you very much, Dr. Olofin. This has been an enlightening session, and I believe we all learned a lot, right? So we learned first off to be innovative, seek mentorship, and don't give up on your ideas, because ideas don't what?
Die.
Ideas don't die. Thank you very much, sir. We are very grateful for you.